"You're really doing this here?" he said, his voice too close, too confident. She laughed. "Relax, no one's listening." I hung up. Except she didn't. I was still on the line. The call was still active. 34 minutes and 22 seconds by the time I finally had the nerve to press end. The first minute, I thought it was a pocket dial. The second, I heard background chatter, clinking glasses, jazz music, someone complaining about shrimp cocktail. Then her voice. Not the voice she used with me. The soft, careful one, but something sharper. Louder. A voice I didn't know she had. "You're lucky I even came," she teased. He chuckled. "You say that like I didn't book this entire event just for you. I should have ended the call right there. I should have stood up, screamed, done something. But I just sat there. In the kitchen. In the dark. With one sock on and cold coffee in my hand. Listening to my wife flirt with her boss like I was the one interrupting their night. No one knew I was on the line. No one cared. I heard them toast to high risk, high reward. I heard him say he liked her perfume better when it wasn't so professional. She joked that HR would be proud. At some point, I started recording. I don't remember doing it. But my thumb hit the screen, and the voice memo app opened. It was muscle memory. Probably the same kind of reflex I'd used to document software bugs at work. I recorded them like I would an error message, like this betrayal could be debugged. Then the worst part came. She asked, "Do you ever feel bad for him?" Him. Me. Greg, the boss, answered without hesitation. "Only when he tries to matter." She didn't say a word, just laughed. I sat there, not moving, not breathing. The recording was still going. I watched the waveform move like a heartbeat on life support. And I realized. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was embarrassed. Like I'd walked into a party I wasn't invited to, holding a gift no one wanted. That's what it felt like. Like I'd loved someone who had already RSVP'd to a different future. The call ended when they started whispering. When the music faded. When a door closed. That's when I hung up. Not before. Not during. After. Because part of me was still hoping for a punchline. A reveal. A misunderstanding. Something. But there was no twist. No redemption. Just me. Sitting in the dark. Still wearing one sock. And the voice of the woman I married. Talking to someone else like he was home, and I was just a mistake she made on the way. I listened to the recording 5 times that night. Not because I wanted to, because I couldn't believe I had actually heard what I heard. I kept convincing myself I had misinterpreted it, or that the voices didn't mean what they sounded like they meant. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe it was just inside jokes. Maybe I wanted to be heard, just to feel something again. But every time I played it back, it got worse. Not just the words, but the tone. The ease in her voice. The joy. She wasn't being pressured. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't confused. She was having fun. There was a part I'd missed the first time. Around the 11-minute mark. They were talking about my car. The only thing in both our names. She told him she was waiting for the right moment to get me to sell it. That I'd be too emotional if she just told me she wanted something smaller. But that once the paperwork was signed, she'd make it up to him on the next trip. The next trip? I didn't know about a first trip. I started pacing. I don't know how long I did it, just walking in circles around the kitchen table. Every loop I made. I stared at her keys still hanging on the hook, like they belonged to a stranger who broke in and never left. My hands were shaking so bad I spilled water on the voice memo. Well, not the actual file. Just my phone. But I wiped it down like I was saving something sacred. It was the only proof I had that the world I thought I lived in had never existed in the first place. At some point, I opened our closet and just stared. Her side looked like a catalog. Color-coded. Seasonal. Intentional. Mine looked like someone had lost a bed and been forced to dress out of a lost and found bin. That sounds pathetic, I know. But in that moment, the difference between us was loud. She had options. I had routines. I didn't even know what I was looking for. A receipt? A hotel card? A note she forgot to throw away? Something physical that could hurt in a more honest way. The phone call was like a ghost. I needed to touch the betrayal. To see it. And I did. In her second drawer, tucked under a silk scarf I'd never seen before, was a white envelope. It wasn't sealed. Inside were 2 printed boarding passes. Not ours. Hers. And Greg's. Same last name as the voice in the recording. Richmond to Miami. 2 weeks ago. A conference, she'd said. I remember when she came back from that trip. She brought me a t-shirt. It said Miami. 80% humidity, 100% sass. I wore it to bed that night. I wore it the next night, too. I remember thinking it still smelled like her shampoo. God, I'm such an idiot. I sat down on the bed, holding the boarding passes like they were divorce papers. There was this ringing in my ears I couldn't shake. My face felt hot, but my hands were freezing. I remember thinking, what am I supposed to do now? Not in an angry way, not even in a sad way, just numb. She was still gone. The event was overnight. She said she'd be back in the morning. I had 12 hours. 12 hours before I had to pretend to be surprised. Before I had to act like I didn't already know I'd become a prop in someone else's life. So I did the only thing I could think of. I copied the voice memo to my laptop. I scanned the boarding passes. I saved everything to a new folder. I named it Evidence. And I waited. Not because I was planning revenge. Not because I wanted to catch her in the act. But because I still hoped, somehow, some impossible way, that when she walked through the door, she'd lie to me. And I'd believe it. She came home at 9:14 the next morning. I heard the garage door groan open like it always did. Loud, crooked, slightly delayed. I hadn't slept. Not a second. I just lay in bed all night, staring at the ceiling fan, trying to decide whether to scream when she walked in or pretend nothing was wrong. I didn't do either. Instead, I stayed completely still as she came through the mudroom, kicked off her shoes, and called out, "Hey babe, I grabbed us those scones you like. The almond ones." She sounded cheerful, light, like she was bringing back a souvenir from a vacation she didn't feel guilty about. I heard her rustling around in the kitchen, probably setting them on a plate like nothing was fractured. Like I wasn't cracked wide open in the next room holding boarding passes with her name and Greg's printed side by side. She walked into the bedroom holding a paper bag and a takeaway coffee cup like this was Sunday brunch. Her hair was curled at the ends like she'd done it recently, too recently. Not slept on, not travel tired. Fresh. Her makeup was light, but still there. Gloss, concealer, mascara. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to say she wanted someone to look at her and notice. I watched her from the bed. I didn't even pretend to smile. "You okay?" she asked, setting the bag down. "You look like you didn't sleep." I waited. Just waited to see if she'd offer more. If she'd sit down, take my hand, say something real. But instead she turned around and started unpacking the scones, humming. She didn't smell like her usual perfume. She smelled like cheap hotel lotion and something citrusy. Something not hers. I sat up. My voice came out hoarse, like it belonged to someone else. "Where was the event again?" She turned halfway, blinking like I'd asked her how airplanes worked. "The rooftop downtown. The one with the glass bar." "Why?" "Thought you said it was at the new waterfront location." There was a pause. A flicker. Just enough to see the math behind her eyes as she recalculated. "Oh, yeah. It was, originally. But they changed it last minute. Last week, actually. I must have told you." "You didn't." She shrugged like it didn't matter. "Guess I forgot." She was too calm. That kind of calm you only have when you've rehearsed something more than once. She sat on the edge of the bed and handed me the coffee. They had a DJ. Greg made everyone take tequila shots. I swear, our company is becoming a frat house. Greg. She said his name like it was nothing. Like it wasn't the name that made my stomach twist now. Like I didn't spend hours replaying every syllable he whispered to her while they clinked glasses over jokes I wasn't in on. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And it hit me. I had no idea who this woman was. She looked like my wife. She moved like her. She even used the same laugh. But it was a performance. She wasn't talking to me. She was narrating a version of herself that I was supposed to buy into. And I almost did. For 5 whole minutes, I almost let myself fall back into the story. I nodded at the right moments. Sipped the coffee. Bit into the scone. It tasted like almond and betrayal. Then I saw it, barely visible. A small red imprint on her collarbone. Not a bruise. Not a lipstick smear. Just the faint outline of pressure. A hand? A strap? A mouth? My heart dropped, and for the first time in hours, it wasn't from pain. It was rage. Not the kind you yell with. Not the kind that throws plates or punches walls. This was quieter. More dangerous. A low hum in the chest. The kind that builds like steam in an old pipe, waiting for one wrong word to rupture. And I knew then, I wasn't going to ask her anything else. I was going to let her talk. Because the more she talked, the more rope she'd wrap around herself. And I had all the time in the world to watch her pull it tight. I didn't sleep that night either. She did. Curled up beside me like nothing was wrong. like the walls weren't caving in around us. She had the nerve to reach for my hand under the blanket, and I let her. That's the part that disgusts me the most. I held her hand. I held the hand of a woman who had just spent the night being someone else's fantasy, who called me her husband while calling someone else home. My fingers went cold, but I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I didn't want to give her a reason to pull away first, because then it would be real. The next morning, she showered first. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, still barefoot, still pretending I didn't know everything I knew. I heard the water running and imagined him standing behind her under a different showerhead, maybe saying the same things I used to whisper when she was mine. Turn around. I got you. Stay a little longer. I opened my phone. I replayed the voice memo for the 6th time. Just one section. Just her laugh. I kept isolating that sound like it would give me a different answer. But it didn't. It was always her. Always that version of her. And it wasn't a mistake. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't pressured. She was free. She just chose him. That's what broke me. The choice. She came out of the bathroom, wearing a towel and humming some song I didn't recognize. She smiled when she saw me still sitting there and kissed the top of my head like I was her little project. You okay? You've been off lately. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, you're right. I'm off. Because you turned our marriage into an afterthought. But instead, I nodded. Said I was just tired. Blamed it on deadlines and late nights and not enough coffee. She bought it. Or at least pretended to. While she got dressed, I watched her from the corner of my eye. Every movement, every zipper, every piece of jewelry she chose. I cataloged it all like I was watching a crime scene get reconstructed. The necklace she put on? Not one I bought. The blouse? Still smelled faintly like someone else's cologne. The earrings? Gold hoops. She only wears those when she wants to feel bold. Greg must have liked her bold. When she left for work, I followed her to the door like normal, kissed her goodbye like normal. She touched my face like she loved me. Said, I'll be home early. Want to make pasta tonight? I said sure. She left. The door clicked shut, and I finally exhaled. I waited 10 minutes. Then I went straight to the guest bathroom. Not ours. The one she claimed she never used. The one that was too cold in the mornings. There it was. A second toothbrush. Blue. Soft bristle. New. Not mine. Not the one I kept there in case guests came over. This one had water droplets on the handle like it had been used just hours before. Beside it, a travel-sized mouthwash and a razor. One of those single-blade disposables I'd never buy. I checked the trash can. Carefully. Didn't touch anything. Just tilted it toward the light. 2 tissues. One lipstick stained. The other smeared with what looked like foundation. No floss. No packaging. Nothing obvious. Just enough to know this wasn't her hiding something from me. This was her hosting someone. Preparing. Maintaining. She wasn't covering up a secret. She was decorating one. I took pictures of everything. Every angle. Every item. Uploaded them to the same folder on my laptop. I renamed it Reality. That's when the real question hit me. Was this the first affair? Or was this just the first one I was smart enough to catch? I sat on the edge of the tub, phone in one hand, toothbrush in the other, and I swear my reflection in the mirror looked like it aged 10 years overnight. My skin looked sallow, eyes red, posture collapsed like I was folding in on myself. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't burn you. It melts you, quietly, slowly, until you're unrecognizable, even to yourself. And for a long time I just sat there, whispering one question over and over in my head. How many lies can one person keep inside a smile before it cracks their face in half? Because when she came home that night, she smiled again, like nothing had changed, like she wasn't already living in a world I didn't belong to anymore. By the 3rd day, I couldn't tell if I was more afraid of confronting her or of waking up one morning and realizing she'd already decided to leave and just hadn't told me yet. She started talking more. Not the kind of talking we used to do, not the deep stuff at 2 a.m. when the lights were off and the cat was asleep at our feet. This was noise. Decorative sentences. Stories. Useless, safe stories that were designed to distract, to hold up a facade. She told me about some vendor mix-up at work, how someone accidentally ordered 80 gallons of paint instead of 8. She laughed at her own retelling. I nodded, smiled when I was supposed to, even added a chuckle for realism. But inside, I was slipping. It's strange what betrayal does to your perception. Suddenly, everything becomes a potential clue. Every pause in conversation feels scripted. Every word you don't recognize feels like a secret code you're not smart enough to break. That night, while she was in the shower, our shared shower this time, I opened her laptop. I'd never done that before. Never even thought about it. We respected boundaries, trusted each other, or at least I thought we did. She had no password. Or maybe she did, but she'd left it open. Either way, the screen lit up like it wanted me to find something. Her inbox was clean. Suspiciously clean. Only recent emails, most of them newsletters or work. But the trash folder, that told another story. She'd deleted her flight confirmations, the hotel receipt, even a calendar invite titled Client Dinner. Gee, it was scrubbed. Efficient. Professional. Like she wasn't new to this. I took screenshots. Forwarded them to a hidden email I made 2 nights ago. Then I found the Notes app. Nothing interesting at first. Grocery lists. Meal prep reminders. A packing checklist. But then one note, buried near the bottom, caught my attention. Titled, Things to Remember, Private. It started with innocent things. Buy his favorite toothpaste again, he noticed. Don't leave Greg's charger in the car. Book table with corner booth next time. Avoid being seen. Smile when lying. Don't oversell. He suspects nothing. Keep Greg out of texts. Use G or Janelle. Remember, Dalton folds laundry on Sundays. Use that time. I read that last line 4 times before it sank in. She didn't just cheat on me. She scheduled around me. She designed a routine with my habits in mind, like I was an obstacle to navigate, not a person to consider. My hands were shaking again, but I couldn't stop reading. My own life, disassembled in bullet points, like I was the character in someone else's plan. When she stepped out of the shower and called for me, I nearly dropped the laptop. Babe, can you bring me my robe? I forgot it on the bed. I closed everything. Too fast. The screen froze for a second, and I thought I'd get caught. But it cleared, just in time. I grabbed the robe and walked into the bathroom, holding it out like nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek. Water dripped from her hair onto my shirt. I stared at the drops like they could burn through me. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked, "Want wine tonight?" She said yes, told me to pick the red one. She was in the mood for something rich, something with weight, she said. Her words. I nearly laughed. The irony almost choked me. Later that evening, we drank that wine. Sat on the couch under the same blanket we'd had since our 2nd anniversary. She leaned into me, her head on my shoulder. I watched her like you watch a fire that might jump the fence. Beautiful. Dangerous. Unpredictable. She asked if I wanted to go away for the weekend. Somewhere quiet, just us. No work. No distractions. I said sure. She smiled. And I knew she was trying to reset the clock. I just didn't know why yet. But I would soon. Because the next morning, I found something in her coat pocket that didn't belong. And it told me exactly what she was planning to do next. The object in her coat pocket was small. Harmless at a glance. A sleek black key fob with a hotel logo etched in silver, Riverpoint Suites. A place about 40 minutes outside the city, mostly used for retreats and weddings. I'd never been there, but I knew of it. And now, apparently, so did she. At first, I convinced myself maybe it was for someone else. A coworker's key she picked up by accident. Maybe she had a meeting there. Maybe it wasn't even hers. But it was warm. Still warm from her hand. I found it before she left for work, when she went back upstairs to grab earrings she forgot. It had been sitting loose in the deep side pocket of her coat, the beige one she only wore when she wanted to look sophisticated but casual. Something about that pocket. Something about her forgetting that pocket. It felt wrong. Like she wasn't being sloppy. She was being sure I'd never look. I slipped it into my own jacket. I didn't say anything. Not that morning. Not that evening. Not the next day. Instead, I researched. Riverpoint Suites. Room layout. Security. Parking. Floor plans. I learned they had a private wing with lake-facing balconies and a second elevator guests could use to bypass the lobby. It was all in the promotional PDF. They sold privacy. And she bought it. For 2 nights, I said nothing. Let her kiss me. Let her sit beside me and scroll through her phone while I watched her reflection in the TV screen. I memorized the way her thumbs swiped upward, the way her face didn't move when she was texting someone she didn't want me to ask about. She smiled when she typed. I hadn't seen her smile at my texts in months. I started sleeping on the couch. Told her I had a sore neck. That the mattress was making it worse. She offered to switch sides. I said no. She brought me tea, left it on the coffee table, then kissed my forehead with lips that belonged to another man. That weekend, the one she suggested, was now approaching fast. Saturday morning, just us, she said. She wanted to drive north, rent a cabin. Fresh air. A break from screens. I nodded, agreed, told her I was looking forward to it. But in reality, I wasn't going anywhere. I had one goal now. Find out who she really was. Not the version she performed for me. Not the edited one she showed the world. I wanted to see the woman she was when she thought no one was watching. I started checking phone records. Nothing obvious. She was smart. No contact named Greg. But one number kept coming up. Same area code. Same call length. Repeated late at night and during work hours. I dialed it from a burner app. No answer. Straight to voicemail. But the name that played? Hey, you've reached Garrison. Leave a message. Garrison. Greg was short for Garrison. Of course it was. I didn't leave a message. Just hung up and sat there with the weight of the confirmation. Every small piece. The voice memo, the boarding passes, the toothbrush, the email, the notes. They were no longer loose threads. They formed a net. And she was caught in it. That night, she asked me if I still loved her. I froze. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I wasn't sure what she meant by the question. Did she suspect something? Was this her conscience flaring up for one brief moment of decency? Or was it just part of the act? I said yes. She smiled, bit her lip like she used to when we were dating. She leaned in, laid her head on my chest, whispered, "I've missed you lately." I didn't respond, because I realized something horrible in that moment. Not just that she was lying to me, not just that she was cheating, but that she believed I was safe. Predictable. Harmless. The man who wouldn't ask questions. Who would accept what was given. Who would never cause a scene. She thought I would let this go. And maybe I would have, months ago. But now? Now I had a key. A name. A hotel. And all I needed was one more lie. One more bold, confident lie. And then I'd be ready to disappear. But not before she knew that I knew everything. She said she had a meeting Saturday morning. One of those last-minute strategic partnerships her company always seemed to schedule without warning. She smiled apologetically as she canceled our cabin plans and promised we'd reschedule for next weekend. I nodded, told her I understood. She touched my cheek and thanked me for being so patient, always. I watched her pack the overnight bag in silence. Just a laptop, charger, 2 changes of clothes, 1 bottle of perfume she only wore when she wanted to make an impression. She paused for a second, turned to me and asked, "Do you want me to bring back anything?" I told her, just the truth. She laughed, thought I was being philosophical. "That's deep," she said, tossing a scarf into the bag. By 7:42 a.m., she was gone. By 8:35 a.m., I was in the car, holding the hotel key I'd found in her coat pocket days earlier. I didn't rush. I wanted to be late, on purpose. I wanted to walk in just after the lie had finished getting comfortable. I wanted to be the gust of cold wind that blows out a candle in the middle of someone's wish. Riverpoint Suites was quiet when I arrived. A valet offered to park my car. I declined. I wanted full control of my exit. I walked in through the side entrance, used the elevator no one else seemed to be using, and pressed the button for the 3rd floor. Room 312. I didn't even have to test the key. When I reached the door, it was cracked open, not all the way, just barely ajar. Someone had left in a hurry. Or maybe they thought no one would come knocking. I stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not sex. Not perfume. Clean linen. Air conditioning. Cold coffee on the table. The room was empty. Still warm, but empty. Her overnight bag was on the floor next to the bed. Unzipped. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. Because the second thing I noticed was the phone. Her phone. Left charging on the nightstand. And it was unlocked. It's funny. I'd spent weeks wondering, digging, preparing. And suddenly, everything was right there. Messages open. Threads half-typed. Her conversation with Janelle was pinned to the top. I tapped it. It wasn't Janelle. It was Garrison. Every message was a blade. G. You still wearing that thing I like? M. Been wearing it since I left the driveway. G. Wish I'd taken a photo. M. You will. After brunch. I told Dalton it's just a networking thing. G. He's an idiot. M. I know. I didn't cry. Not this time. I scrolled like I was looking through a stranger's diary. Detached. Focused. I screenshotted the messages, airdropped them to my own phone, and deleted the transfer history. Her lies deserved preservation. I heard a voice in the hallway, hers, and stepped quietly into the bathroom. The door closed just as the front door opened. She laughed. I can't believe you still don't remember where we parked. It was literally. She stopped talking. I heard footsteps. Paused. One set. She must have noticed her phone. I waited. Then I opened the bathroom door slowly and stepped out. She spun around like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't speak. Neither did she. For a full 10 seconds, we just stared at each other. Her hand was still near her chest, as if she hadn't figured out what to do with it yet. Her mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. Her face was flushed. Not from shame. From fear. I finally broke the silence. You forgot your phone. She blinked. What are you doing here? I thought we had a weekend planned, I said. But then you had your meeting. So I came here to wait. You knew? About the hotel key? Or the second toothbrush? Or the fake calendar invite? You'll have to be more specific. Her knees buckled slightly, but she caught herself on the table. Dalton, I didn't come here to argue, I said, cutting her off. My voice was flat. Calm. I just wanted to see how good the performance really was. I wanted to see if you'd flinch. She was silent. I took a step closer. You didn't. Not until just now. She started crying, or tried to. The kind of crying that doesn't come from pain, but from panic. From being caught. I watched her wipe tears that hadn't fully formed. I walked over to her phone, picked it up, and handed it to her. You might want to delete the thread. I already saved it, but it's better for your next act if he doesn't see how messy this one got. She tried to reach for my hand. Please, Dalton, just... I pulled back. No. She swallowed hard. I looked around the room. At the perfectly made bed. At the champagne bucket with condensation still clinging to the metal. At the reflection of us in the mirror above the dresser. Two people standing close, but living in separate, dying worlds. I'll be gone by Monday, I said. You don't need to worry about the house. You can have it. You'll need somewhere to tell your next story. Her voice cracked. Where are you going? I smiled. The first genuine smile I'd felt in weeks. To someplace real. And with that, I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. But I knew, for the first time since this all started, I wasn't the one who'd lost something. She was. And she had no idea what it was yet. I drove for hours without checking the map. Didn't need to. I just kept heading toward anything that didn't remind me of her. Of us. No ring on my finger. No one to text when I stopped for gas. No one to update. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't expected anywhere. And surprisingly, that didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like relief. I ended up in a small town I'd never heard of. Mountains in the distance, quiet streets, a diner with real coffee, and a cashier who looked like she hadn't memorized a single corporate policy in her life. I sat at the window, ordered a breakfast I didn't need, and finally exhaled. My shoulders dropped. My jaw unclenched. I felt my own body return to me, piece by piece. I pulled out my phone. 17 missed calls. 9 voicemails. 3 texts. All variations of, please come back, and we can fix this. I deleted them without listening. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't anger. It was peace. Because I finally understood, I wasn't broken because she betrayed me. I was broken because I kept believing I was the problem she was trying to fix. And now? Now I knew better. I booked a room above a bookstore run by an old couple who offered me tea before I even gave them my name. There was no Wi-Fi, no room service, just silence and sunlight through dusty windows. That night, I slept. Really slept. No dreams. No alarms. No pretending. In the morning, I sat by the window with a notebook and wrote something I hadn't dared to say out loud yet. I was enough. She just didn't want to see it. I read it once. Then I underlined it. Twice. 3 weeks later, I started building again. Not a relationship. Not a revenge plan. Something mine. A small tech project. A website idea I'd shelved years ago. I called it Room 312, not to relive the memory, but to mark the place I came back to life. I'm not healed. Not entirely. I still double-check hotel keys. I still pause when someone says, trust me. But I also smile more now. At strangers. At sunsets. At myself. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, I think about her. Not with hate. Not even with regret. Just a quiet curiosity about the life she built out of lies. A world made of illusions. A house with mirrors instead of walls. I wonder if she ever found what she was looking for. And then I remember. I did.